Welcome to Median Hoops. I'm Luke McCauley. Happy Sunday, everyone. Hope everyone is having a great week so far. Today, we're going to dive into the NBA Finals. First, we're going to break down what has made the Dallas Mavericks defense so strong, and then dive into how the Celtics have taken away some of the Mavericks' strengths on both the offensive and defensive end of the floor. Then bring things home by talking a little bit about Game 5 of the Finals and what that might mean for this series. So, without further ado, let's get into things. So on the defensive end of the floor, one of the Mavericks' greatest strengths as seen in their playoff run has been their interior defense, their ability to protect the paint, their rim protection. It's anchored by Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. And here's some really interesting stats for y'all. For trading for Gafford and PJ Washington at the trade deadline, the Mavericks were dead last in the league in opponent field goal percentage allowed at the rim at 70.6%. In all games after trading for Gafford and Washington at that trade deadline, they were number one in the league in field goal percentage allowed, holding teams to only 61.3% at the rim. I mean, an absolute complete flip of the switch. Went from the worst team in the league at the rim to the very best. So this is a new identity that the Mavs gained throughout the season. This strong defense that is now anchored by their centers. And it's made guys like Luka and Kyrie's job much easier on that side of the floor. The two of them were able to be placed into more achievable defensive roles by having the responsibility cut down to just having to funnel guards and wing slashers into the paint, into the teeth of their interior defense, rather than expect them to hold up on switches and isolation. And that's how they've been able to be so successful in games post-trade deadline and in the NBA playoffs. For example, you could take a look at the Mavericks matchup against the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. It really shows you how strong that interior defense really was. Just to dive into things with Anthony Edwards, he's a rising star in the making. Torched everyone in the playoffs, absolutely shredded the Suns. They had no answer for him, averaging 31 points per game on over 50% from the field, and against the Nuggets, more or less the same, where he averaged 28 points per game on 50% from the field as well. However, once he got to the Western Conference Finals and faced the Mavericks, that's where he finally struggled due to that strong interior defense of the Mavs that could hang with him athletically and compete vertically at the rim and contest his shots effectively. Edwards is a great player, but he has only one mode in his game right now, and that's attacking you full speed at the rim and overpower you as an athlete. And if you give him too much space, he'll pull up, but he hasn't developed that methodical in-between game where kind of just like you let the play develop, you slow things down and then make the right read, just like someone like Luka is extremely good at that. But he's 22, he's got plenty of time to figure that out. And to my point, there's like I said, their strong interior defense has gotten the Mavericks all the way to the finals. And however, if you take a look at the Celtics, they've been able to take away this strength from the Mavericks. Unlike teams like the Clippers and Timberwolves, the Celtics with their starting five can play a true five-out offense. Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis, who are playing the center position, are at the three-point line looking to take threes. And what this has done is it's dislodged the Mavericks centers from the paint and forced guys like Gafford and Lively to have to defend in the perimeter, which, they're obviously not, that's not their strength. It's a very difficult task to ask them to do so. And rather than being in their natural roles as a traditional big man and protecting the paint, they're forced to do that. In this dynamic, it's also caused other problems for the Mavericks, as now Luka and Kyrie, they can't just funnel guys into the paint anymore, since their centers are now forced to move out and guard on the perimeter. And as a result, Luka is left on an island against guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and the Celtics have punished them completely. He's got him blown by on defense like they're running a cone drill. Here's a wild stat for you. The highest blow-by percentage allowed on drives by a player in a single playoff series over the last 10 years has been, you guessed it, Luka Doncic in this year's finals against the Celtics at 67.7% allowed on drives. I mean, that stat right there just sums up all the Mavericks' problems in their first three games against the Celtics. He's this amazing offensive player, but that's just unacceptable. I know he's spectacular on the offensive end of the floor. And I understand that, that responsibility running the Mavs offense as this high volume scorer, it's going to take a toll on him. And obviously being tasked with hard defensive assignments due to how talented that whole Celtics roster is all across the board. But if the Mavericks want any chance of getting to the promised land, he's got to do better on the defensive end of the floor. There's just no question about that. On the offensive side of things, the Mavericks haven't been great either, and it mainly comes down to the fact that Boston has such a switchable defense. Their starting five has Drew Holiday, a guy with great hands, great point of attack defender, proven playoff experience. Jaylen Brown's he's playing the best defense he's ever played since that 2022 NBA Finals. Great active hands, so athletic. Feels like he's pickpocketed Luka every game on multiple possessions. And then you have Derek White, one of the best shot blocking guards in the NBA, and just Tatum's a great defender. Like the list goes on, and like these guys are killer on the defensive end of the floor. It's just overpowering athleticism. And you take a look at the Mavs offense, right? Their greatest strength is Luka and Kyrie. It's picking on weaker defenders, switching on to them and attacking mismatches. That's how they make their money, and there really is no true mismatch for them to attack against that Celtics starting five. Maybe you could argue Horford, perhaps, for someone like Kyrie who's very quick and mobile off the dribble, but Horford's still this very experienced, savvy defender who, knows how to position himself well and pretty good footwork to stay with the likes of someone like Kyrie, even if he's not super quick. And Kyrie's obviously can try to blow by him with his quickness off the dribble. But, lastly, wanted to touch upon Game 4 of the finals real quick. I think this game sort of confused and mystified a lot of people. Boston won the first 3 games against the Mavericks, only be absolutely dominated by the Mavericks in Game 4. They got blown out by 42 points, which is actually, according to NBA history, the second largest margin of victory by any team in the finals. Just behind the Bulls, who beat the Utah Jazz by 42 points in Game 3 of the 1998 finals. But, should we be concerned for the Celtics? I mean, short answer, really no. It's really hard to sweep a team. Just in general, in total of 76 NBA Finals series in history, there's only been 9 times that team has pulled off a sweep. And I've been waiting for this Mavericks offense to just finally explode. They shot the ball horrifically in pretty much all 3 of the opening games, and they were due for a game like this. These are some of the world's best basketball players competing on the ultimate stage, and at some point, no matter how good your defense is, they're going to have a game or two where they shoot the ball well, no matter how they defend. Outside of Luka and Kyrie, in that game, the Dallas role players combined for 14 threes and above 50% shooting from three-point land in Game 4. So kind of just shows you right there, after they've been struggling, they were going to win that game with that, how well their role players shot and hitting above the big three-pointers. But Luka and Kyrie themselves, they combined for 50 points as well in that game. So, they just completely exploded offensively. And they were just the more desperate team. I mean, when you were 1 game away from your season ending, you go into almost a flight mode type of instinct, and combine that the fact that the Celtics shot the ball at 36% from the floor and 34% from 3. It just makes sense, how things kind of shaked out in a huge Mavericks blowout win. Now, there were a few adjustments the Mavericks made in Game 4, such as playing a one-man zone of Derek Lively in the paint to try to keep their centers in the paint and to be rim protectors, which is their strength, right? But nothing that really would warrant concern for the Celtics. I mean, I still have the Celtics winning this in 5 games, but I will say this. If there's any backcourt in this sport that is capable of pulling off the impossible, it would be Luka and Kyrie. I mean, on paper, they could be considered one of the most talented offensive backcourts of all time. So if they get on a hot streak and go nuclear for 3 straight games, which I very much wouldn't exactly find that to be a plausible outcome. It'd be very difficult. But they're so talented, I wouldn't be completely shocked if that happens, and can't count them out. If you made it to the end, just want to say thank you all for tuning in. I'll be making more content, breakdowns of games and players, as well as making videos that tell the story of some of the NBA's public affairs and players around the league. I'm Luke McCauley on Media and Hoops. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Take care.